PK Gulati is India's Diaspora Ambassador here, and we couldn't ask for a better ambassador here in this location. He's been here for 3 decades as of 22nd January. So 3 decades in a place, he's more than at home here, and he was part of the founding team of the Dubai Future Foundation, and this is home for him, I think. So welcome, PK. It's wonderful to have you here. The others joining him in the showcase today are Alok Kumar, founder of Cosmos AI, Prem Narayan Das, founder and CEO of Catonic, and Anusha Iqbal, founder of Kanuni AI.
Good afternoon. No response from AI. Thank you very much for staying here to listen to these 3 exceptional startups who are doing stuff. By the way, who wasn't blown away by Adalat.ai? Utkarsh, awesome. I'm blown away. You know, Manu, I was blown away with you, but now both of you together, it's a game changer. Thank you so much for showing us and now the bar is pretty high, correct?
I think it's too high. I think we need to leave the stage.
And Anushka, we are talking about Kanuni.ai, so maybe we'll talk about the other side of. So thank you very much for coming. I have the privilege of speaking to 3 great people who've got 3 very different AI-focused startups to talk about. And they're game changers because they come from different parts of the world, and they come to different parts of the world. So let me start with the youngest one, which is Alok. Alok, you're doing something pretty unique, and I've seen you for a few years. Why don't you tell people what you exactly are doing?
All right. Thank you, PK, for having me. So I'm Alok. I'm the founder and CEO of Cosmos AI. What we are doing is pretty much simple. We are building the AWS for AI employees. Simply put in layman words, if you're an enterprise, if you come to our platform, you could have an AI employee who could talk, who could go to online, do any task for you digitally, which is sending emails, reading text, WhatsApp, doing a phone call at scale, deployed in like less than 2 hours. Usually a task which takes you probably weeks, months, and years to deploy. You can come to our platform and deploy in weeks. The world's first AI hospital coming out of Dubai. It is powered by Cosmos AI. The world's first financial service powered by AI employees end-to-end coming out of Berlin. It's powered by us. We started about 3 months back. We had a team of less than 9 core team members who used to work in Facebook, Indeed.com. We are backed by Y Combinator, DFF's Dubai Future District Fund, and a couple of other amazing angels and investors.
Good work. I've seen you start, you grew up in Saudi Arabia, I understand.
That's correct.
And then, a kid who grew up here doing AI is not usual, correct? So what pushed you in the direction of entrepreneurship so early in your life? I believe you've done a company before which pivoted, correct? Yes. Why did you start on entrepreneurship so early?
So a quick background about me. I was born and raised in Saudi. I'm originally Indian. I lost my mom at the age of 6. Computers were my best friends from the age of 8. I was a coder from very early days. I did not have siblings when I grew up, and we came from a super middle class family, so I had to get my own pocket money done. I started selling probably at the age of 14, 15, a bunch of stuff. So coding and selling was my passion. I got a full scholarship in one of the best universities out here, and then I studied engineering. I graduated. I got an offer from UPenn to go into data science and analytics. I rejected that to become a strategy consultant with Ministry of Economy in Saudi. Worked on for like 3 years, realized consulting is a bunch of slides without much impact. Did not want to spend my 20s making slides. For me, it was all about...
Anybody have similar thoughts? Just saying.
It was always about impact. So I called out the best engineer I knew. She's from Egypt. She's my co-founder, Noha. She was 4 years ahead of me. She was pursuing a PhD in US. I told her, Noha, listen, although I'm an Indian, I want to build something out of here. Why don't you just take a sabbatical, drop out, we'll figure it out. Took 6 months to convince her because it's an Arab family. It took a lot of time. She moved to Dubai about in 2022. Initially, the idea was let's build in financial technology because there's a pain point we felt we could actually solve. 6 months into building into that category, we realized regulations would be a hurdle, and we had to choose between being a bank or a technology company. And as a coder by heart, I was like, that doesn't make sense. We want to build in tech. So we went into building in this kind of side. Entrepreneurship is, for me, I'm a high-risk person. I like risk. Entrepreneurship seems to be the right place to be there.
Anushka, does that sound familiar, moving from fintech to AI?
Yeah, actually a lot of similarities. I was accepted into Penn. I did go to Penn, so that was one thing. I've been in Dubai since 2007, but started my career in private equity. Left that world to do entrepreneurship. Sometimes I wonder why. So if you ask me that question, I probably can't answer it very well, but my first business was in fintech, as PK pointed out. We were doing.
I remember the first pitch, so.
We built that business, but that business was using, it was an AI, but AI as a concept around machine learning, data analysis has been around for a very, very long time.
You're replacing people we don't like.
We don't replace people. We augment people. We enhance productivity. What we ended up doing was using machine learning to analyze credit and give people instant credit at checkout. We took those learnings, and today we are working in the legal field. My company is called Kanuni. We are basically using AI to enhance legal workflows, such as drafting and reviewing documents, and also creating and using agentic AI to do end-to-end solutions like drafting litigation memos. So when I was learning about Adalat, it resonated a lot with me because there's efficiencies on both sides of this equation, and I think genuinely AI is really going to help improve the lives of quite a lot of people. There's the court systems, which we heard quite a lot about, but on the flip side, there's also lawyers who usually don't end up taking cases or defending people because they just don't have the time and the capacity to do so. So we're hoping that tools like the one we're building will increase productivity in that field.
Prem, down under, you're here from Australia, long distance away. Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, look, I think I'm the oldest entrepreneur here, so yeah, I read that, the best entrepreneurs are the ones who turn 40. So when I turned 40, I started up. So all my life, I'm a chemical engineer, by the way.
We just heard in the morning that MR is doing a startup, by the way. So no age limits there, and don't talk 40s,
Yeah, he wants to beat my record, probably, yeah. So, yeah, look, I'm a chemical engineer, so that also proves that what you study has no relevance to what you do, right? And I worked in an enterprise, I worked with TCS for 15 years, traveled many countries, helping CXOs basically transform their business using technology, right? Technology kept changing. And prior to starting Ketonic, so Ketonic AI, started 5 years back when AI was not so popular, right? It was machine learning back then. And prior to starting Ketonic, I was working with a very large, probably the 4th largest IT company in the world. I was heading blockchain, and I implemented one of the world's first enterprise blockchain. And I was also responsible for emerging tech, but in my mind, it was very clear that AI is going to be the future.
On Hyperledger, obviously, correct?
Sorry?
On Hyperledger?
On Coda, R3, yeah. And in my mind, it was very clear that enterprise blockchain is going to be dead. More or less, I think it is, no offense to R3, they still exist. AI would be the future. And what we do in simple terms is no CIO or CEO gets up and says, I want to implement AI. They're looking for use cases, so they're either looking at implementing solutions which can make their employees productive, automate processes, or improve customer experience. And what we offer them is a platform so that they can build their own. Because when you're looking at getting value from AI, you have two options, either buy a solution or build a solution. Yes, I did hear some great solutions here, but unfortunately, a lot of those solutions don't exist, and it's very difficult to kind of customize them for enterprise. So we are an infra-agnostic. We live on Kubernetes, GPU-agnostic platform, which essentially helps enterprise build use cases. We have customers in 8 countries, including Saudi Arabia and Dubai. In fact, we just signed a partnership with Etisalat, where they'll be using our platform.
E&.
Yes, and they'll be selling Etisalat, E&, Enterprise. They'll be using our platform for all their internal use cases. and selling, Ketonic to in 33 countries. And this was after they spent 16 months comparing some of the best names in the world. So I feel really good. So yeah, we operate in Singapore. We have a majority. We are remote first. We have a team in India. Majority of our team in India. Very proud. And of course, we recently set up in DIFC as well. We're very bullish in this region. I will be here for a long, long time, looks like. So, yeah, essentially helping enterprises get value from AI with, not PhD students or machine learning engineers, but people who can just be normal technical people can actually build applications very quickly. And some of the biggest case studies, so we have customers in the US, Cost University in Saudi Arabia, their entire center of excellence, the generative AI center of excellence, is powered by Ketonic. We have a lot of use cases I can't talk about. So essentially, sovereign AI, responsible AI and security. If that means important to you, you come to Ketonic. So that's my pitch. Yeah.
You're at the right place then.
So,
Alok, quick question on your journey. You started the company, pivoted the company, and then went to YC. Why so? And what did YC, or what has YC given you? What is, like, for anybody who's a budding entrepreneur, do you suggest that pathway?
Thank you. So we started the company back in 2022. YC accepted us before we wrote a single line of code. It was just me and my co-founder. We applied to YC saying that, hey, we want to build something. We are super inexperienced, but we know how to build. So YC put a $500,000 check, and they were like, all right, we'll figure this out. So we started building in fintech. YC was super helpful because until we got into YC, we were not sure about a lot of things like how do you build scalable systems, how do you raise money, how do you actually have access to a network you could sell. So when we went into YC, all these three problems were solved. So YC, for example, our group partner was Tom Bloomfield. He's the founder of Monzo, which is one of the largest neobanks in UK. He came in on board and he's like, okay guys, you know how to code, but let's actually give you a CTO who would actually help you to, or mentor you it. So in 2 or 3 months, we had some key members from Monzo coming and helping us. The same thing for raising investments. Until we got into YC, we had just barely raised like $200,000 via angels. But once we got into YC, investors were reaching out to us to actually take a small slice of the pie. So the equation changed, where we had the liberty to choose the investors who we want to bring on board, who has great distribution access. So that's when we raised our early $3 million round. And then the best part was you could sell to fellow founders. So YC has a huge network where there are founders who built Airbnb, Stripe, and likewise. So you could actually you could sell out to them, get their mentorship. So YC was a game changer. While we were in YC, one of the things we realized was the power of impactful mentors. One of the impactful mentors we had was Dalton Cadwell. He is the guy who built a competitor to Instagram and failed. Then he got backed by so you get this kind of stories, like war stories on ground, which you would never get the tactical details. One of our mentor was the founder of Gmail. He was telling us, for example, in Nuance, he was telling us while they were building Gmail, how when you enter a username in the Gmail app, it auto-loads 99% of the time before you enter password for faster experience, just because they assume that 95% of cases, it's a false logic. So you get this kind of tactical details, which is crazy amazing, which I have never got, or I have not seen any other founder get apart from the YC network in the super early days. Of course, other investors do help, but with super early days, YC is super helpful.
Any budding YC alumni or budding YC alumni in there, in the audience? Don't think we have much startups there, correct? Anyway, I'll ask 2 questions to all of you, so go one by one. The first question I have for each one of you is the vision and the mission, because you're very early in life, but there's something you're building towards. What is that? Start with Anushka.
Ultimately, if I were to go long term, almost democratizing access to law, and being able to have even a layman use the tools so that they are able to at least educate themselves on matters that you would have to go to a lawyer to get.
Yeah, so in my case, I think somebody in the prior session quoted that AI is like telcos, right? So every country has their own telco, and AI is going to be a big differentiator. Think of them as war, missiles which everybody wants to own. So my vision is to help countries, enterprises have control, because today you'll be very surprised when you try to build something which is completely under your control. It's very hard. I'm not saying we should manufacture GPUs, but sovereign AI is where you build and you have control of everything. So you have your GPUs in your data center, you have the entire stack, including the large language model deployed, monitored, everything. So we already have that stack. We want to, work more and more on it and work with bigger partners. So we have partnership with NVIDIA, but we also work with Sambano or Grok, because GPU, and now there's LPU and RPU. So we want to be an agnostic platform helping countries and enterprises own and have a private AI so that they have complete control over it. Because
Sovereign AI.
a country who's your friend might not be your friend today. And there are a lot of laws which allows countries, I don't want to name, to have access to your data just because you're working with a company from there. So yeah, that's my vision for sure. Yeah.
Alok?
Yeah, so Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, was once saying you would find like 5 or 10 years down the line where you have 10 people building a billion-dollar company, and likewise. What we want to do is we want to enable every single SME out there, enterprise out there, to actually have no resource ceiling, which means that if you have a 10% department, you could have the productivity gains of a 1,000-person department by deploying the AI employees of Cosmos AI. We see a symbiosis between humans and AI coming in Fruiton, and that will give a resource efficiency gain. We want to be there to facilitate that with our developer platform. That's the vision.
Also, in diaspora, the network is a formidable global network, and it's mainly a give-back network which works to give something back. So if all of you had a chance to ask for a thing or something from the network, what is it that you would ask? Point to the audience. Start with you, down under.
I was hoping it wouldn't be me, the first one, but thank you for putting me in spot. Yeah, look, I think coming from India and having a team who's predominantly in India and innovating, so I think for the work we've done in Ketonic, I've been honored as one of the top 100 innovator in Australia, top 10 IT innovator. And also, I was one of the person invited by President Emmanuel and Prime Minister Narendra Modi in AI for Action, representing Australia out of the 900 delegates, including Sundar Pichai and all the famous people. I was feeling an odd one out there. I think, the whole purpose of Indiaspora is to help fellow Indians and India diaspora. So definitely, I think when you're a startup, you need just two things usually, either the money or the customer.
Which one do you want, or you want both, obviously?
I would want the
Prefer
customer.
both.
So yeah, if you are a CIO or an AI head or anything to do with a large enterprise, and if you see there's a need, it would be great if you
If
can.
you asked for only one, I would have kind of been very disappointed. You need to ask for both and more, correct?
Exactly.
And somebody gives you a free holiday on top of it, the two things, correct? Something of that sort.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
for now,
Amar will call you for the next summit and take you to another beautiful place,
for now,
correct?
customers will do, because I think we are a cash flow positive company, so we need more and more customers and organic revenue coming. So anybody interested, I think that would be
You can
fantastic.
give the money to the other startups, that's fine. That's definitely fine. Anushka.
I would say, you're spot on. I would say then access to market. Currently, we're building in UAE, and we're launching in the UK as well. But if there's a way for us to access the Indian market for our product, I would love to have that opportunity.
So next month onwards, we are raising a Series A round. We have a couple of investors who want to come onto the round, but we are trying to engineer that round to have strategic investors who could help us in distribution. So ideally, we want partners who could be a distribution access across different geographies. So if anyone in the room has a network which could help us, that we would love to have that, because capital is easy, but strategic capital is super hard. We are trying to engineer that out.
That's it, you only want money?
Strategic capital, yes.
Just capital. So 3 great startups. Now the network, please make sure you do something for them. Promise? Promise. Okay, now if we come back to the same summit next year, what will your company look like a year down the line?
So by the end of this year, we are on track to do about 20 million in ARR. So we would actually be we would have AI employees deployed in healthcare, financial services, insurance. We are working in 3 key markets, which is US, UAE, and Saudi. So in these 3 markets, in these 3 industries, we would have AI employees working with some of the top companies out there and processing that kind of ARR.
Anushka.
Well, ideally, we'd like to be the #1 AI tool being used by lawyers in the UAE and the UK, because those are our two starting markets.
In a year. Good.
Because there's not that many people doing it right now. So I don't see it as a stretch.
Yeah, and if you're in enterprise sales, you know, selling an enterprise typically takes 8 to 14 months. So my matrices are 8 months behind. So next year we're hoping to have about 30. So we already have about 12 enterprises who are using our platform. We've hardened it. By end of this year, we're hoping there'll be 30 enterprises. Revenue, not so much focus. We want to harden and build a platform which can scale. So next year we're looking at maybe 2025, but this year probably a 5 million ARR would be nice. But
This guy's going bigger than you, man. This youngster is doing more than you are. Your ambition is less, man.
I'm in for the marathon, so I'll be $1 billion in 5 years. So
Listen,
All the strength to you.
that's a good idea, marathon. You hang the marathon win on the wall, but he has money.
that's okay.
There's a big difference between
No, I'm not in a hurry. I'm just 46, so all good there. Yeah.
You should be in a hurry. You should be in a hurry. MR is running after you. He's going to do his startup before you. On a more strategic note, like you're based here in the in the UAE, and you see a massive amount of AI capacity. Both of you are actually being put up here in Abu Dhabi, and even we are sitting here in the Emirates Stars. It has a great node of AI. What kind of support do you get, or you hope to get from this kind of centralization that happens here? You have local models like the Falcon models available. They're also working in languages which could be helpful, for example, Arabic in this case. What do you think being here is helpful? What has it supported you, or what do you hope to get support from, besides just pure money?
So that's actually a really good question. We're established in the IFC at the AI campus. So we have been leveraging their network. It's everything from connectivity into places like Microsoft and Google. It's everything from getting connectivity into things like Microsoft and Google, where we will need their resources. As a startup, everything counts, even Azure credits, as a simple example, right? So we definitely do that. We've also been trying to get access to the development of the Arabic model, because a large part of the work that we are going to be doing will be in Arabic. At the moment, though, what we're doing is using English models and doing a translation layer on top of it. But can that be better done with actually natively trained models? Probably. So we need access to that. And then I would say, finally, it's also access to data and information. So I just recently reached out to the Dubai Digital Authority, trying to see whether we could get access to case precedents and have a way to better fine-tune our model so that our outputs are better. So I think there's definitely multiple things in the ecosystem that I would love to pull for.
Any experience of that?
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, amazing. So we are based out of Abu Dhabi as well as Dubai. We are backed by Hub 71, which is a great pad to actually get network. Hub 71 has been, to be very honest, they make good introductions to the government, the public sector, and likewise. Similarly, in Dubai, the DFDF, which is funded by DIFC, they are also making good introductions to the public sector. But to be very honest with you, I think being an entrepreneur, I think you guys could agree to it. Making introduction is just a trigger point. It's all about just pursuing those leads, and it's a sales process. So we leverage the DIFC as well as the ADGM's Hub 71's network to get those introductions, but it's all about closing them and making sure it materializes. That has been a fundamental network, that warm introduction often helps to break the ice, but then you have to always showcase the technology and tool, likewise.
If there was actually one thing I would add is, as an entrepreneur, it's always, we know what we want, we go out and try to pull on resources. It would be great if there was a way for us to find out what is available to us as well. How do these, DFC is usually good at it, but I feel like there are other organizations within the UAE that are not as good. What is available to us as entrepreneurs to be able to build on top of? Because some of the stuff is actually quite closed. You can't even access it. So if there was an ask and somebody's listening, Can you make yourself more available?
I have noticed, so last week was having a chat with Dubai Chambers. Dubai Chambers is proactive with government introductions. In fact, I would actually go out to them. There's a lot of entities who want to do a lot of good. It's just about finding them and identifying it.
Yeah.
So Dubai Chambers would be one of them.
Okay, thank you.
So I think a lot of people may have a question of, was it a good idea to build a startup here in this region rather than the proverbial Silicon Valley? Everybody should build a startup in Silicon Valley. All three of you did not.
Actually, for my first startup, I had my brother and my co-founder, who was also my co-founder, move from San Francisco and come here to build. And I think that was a good idea, and I built my second startup here, so clearly I'm biased. There are a lot of advantages.
What happened to your second startup was actually faster than what I've seen in Silicon Valley, acquisition, blah, 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 all that stuff.
It was interesting, and a large part of that was because people from other parts of the world, so my first startup was acquired by an Australian company because they wanted access to these markets. So if you build something that is local, you will have interest in people trying to come in. So I do think that there's a number of advantages, not just the ecosystem that has started to develop and mature over the last decade or so in favor of startups, but also the fact that the rest of the world is taking notice as to what's happening, and so they use it as a way to try and access these markets, and that was the advantage that we had when I first did it. And then the last thing I would say is talent. 10 years ago, if you'd asked me this question, I would have said the biggest issue the region has is access to good talent. That has dramatically changed in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years. I have some brilliant, and they're young, and they're hungry, and they all want to live here. And that's made it very
The beach
easy.
lifestyle.
Yeah, but it works because you have these people who are just smart, and they love and they want to work, and they want to work in startups. So why not have the beach lifestyle and do both?
Well, that's a good pitch. Would you do your startup here again? Since you are actually focused more on the Silicon Valley now.
So we started out to build a fintech over here, which was a super localized solution. That's why we started over here. Having said that, when we pivoted into building AI employees, right now we are getting more demand from Europe as well as US. So when we look at the market, and likewise, there's no global leader in our segment yet, especially what we operate globally. So we are already building out our team in San Francisco. In fact, me and Noha, we are moving out, and we are actually actively going there from next month onwards to build our office out there. Would I build for a local solution here? Yes. Global solution in AI, I would be skeptical for one reason alone. People say startups is building a flight midway while you're flying. An AI startup is more like a rocket ship while you're flying. And a rocket ship needs to reach escape velocity with precision, or you implode. Building an AI startup, you need a lot of talent pool. Unfortunately, you don't have the best talent pool who want to actually be here. They want to be in the valley. They want to work with the best startups out there. So you need to go out to them, and the customer base over there is huge. So will I build an AI startup which I want to compete globally out here? Maybe 5 years down the line, yes, but right now Silicon Valley has a lot of good talents and a lot of good market.
I just got a message saying wrap up, but I'll say that maybe we'll send you there to get the talent back here. Tell them
Would
about
love
the
that.
beaches of Dubai.
I think the talent is coming, by the way. I would disagree with you on that last point. So some of the people that have joined our team recently are exceptional.
So there are talents, but it's like what our Netflix founder says, right? Talent density with A++ players. They like to be with other talents with
Yeah.
A++.
Yeah, even
That's still in
Netflix
Silicon
doesn't
Valley.
put the A+ shows here, by the way. Just,
Thank
you so much.
View, by
Oh,
the way,
you
just
want to
30
wind up?
seconds, yeah. So, look, I think it doesn't matter where you start. So I started in Australia in COVID, April 2020. I didn't meet my team for 2 years. They were spread around the world. We built a product. I think there are 2 key things, right? You can start anywhere. You need to build a good product, and you need to get the first 2 or 3 customers, and you need to build something which will sell anywhere. Because once you got that, scaling can be done from anywhere, right? I mean, one of the reasons I'm going to move to Dubai is because I can spend my morning, manage Australia, afternoon Europe, and in the evening US. I think after some point of time, even if you're a Silicon Valley startup, you'll be on the flights selling around the world. So I think the key thing is to start. to start wherever you are, where you networked is where you born and brought up. The best chances of you succeeding because you know enough people to sell to the first 2 customers, then you can scale from anywhere. So that's
Earlier,
what we
Naveen Chadda told us start, correct? Just start,
Just
correct?
start,
And,
yeah.
and as my friend James Bond says, never say never again.
Absolutely.
Correct? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.